Hello, I'm Jeffrey Mishlove, and I'm smiling this morning because you're going to get a double dose, so to speak, of a telepathic transmission from me today. And the reason is because I made a mistake earlier on, and I've actually recorded an earlier InPresence segment, but while I was editing it, I accidentally managed to erase the whole thing. So I'm starting over. And the irony is, it's like everything I did earlier was lost, completely deleted. I erased it, and then I went into my trash and I erased the trash, only to discover that the entire video, to my surprise, was ruined. And the irony is everything was lost, and yet nothing was lost. In fact, one might say even intensified. That I should do this more often. Create an InPresence segment and then deliberately erase it and then make a second segment, because to the extent that I am able to transmit something telepathically to you, it doubles the transmission. Well, who knows? Who knows if that's the case, but it feels like that to me. It feels like not only is it coming through more intensely at this moment, but everything I did earlier is still there. You're being zapped. Well, I know if I were you, the first thing I would be asking is, what do you mean I'm being zapped? What is that all about? I don't necessarily want to be zapped. What am I being zapped with? And I suppose the traditional answer from the Hindu tradition would be Shakti energy, the life energy of the universe. But it's just a word. And the real issue is this. Why is any of this happening at all? Why are you here now? Why am I here now? What is this about? And I can say on my end, it's about recovering from a mistake. I made a mistake earlier on. It's cost me a certain amount of time to redo this monologue, but regarding the time is well spent. Recovering from mistakes. It's something we all have to do. Not only individually, but also as a culture, as a civilization, as a species on this planet. We have to recover from our mistakes. And the first step in recovering from a mistake is to admit that the mistake took place. I can say this, the earlier segment that I had created, I had called it Darkest Hours, and I went into some depth about the alienation that we're experiencing especially in our country, the United States right now, but all over the world, the frustration, the separation, the hostility, the breakdown of trust, and how important it is for each of us individually to maintain our resolve to become the best versions of ourselves in the face of this cultural enemy. It was about how even in our darkest hours, there are positive energies at work within us and around us. It was to remind you not to give up hope. And also to look at the long picture. If we look at the very long picture, we can see that, as Steven Pinker has pointed out in his book on Our Better Angels, violence is on the decline. Probably the worst violence humanity has seen was in the first half of the 20th century, but since then, things have been getting better. And as my friend Dean Brown has always enjoyed pointing out to me, the human economy, not the human economy, the economy of life on this planet has been growing for billions of years, ever since the first microbes, our earliest ancestors, arrived on this planet billions of years ago. The economy has been expanding. And that for all the ups and downs that we experience, for all the suffering, the trials, the tribulations, the tragedies that take place on this planet and elsewhere in the universe, where we can see sometimes entire galaxies colliding with each other. In spite of all of that, I wish to affirm my understanding that the universe is basically a friendly place. That the universe supports life. And that the universe reaches out to each and every one of us in different ways for each of us to become the best versions of ourselves. That's my message. And the idea of a telepathic transmission, the word telepathy has in it the root word pathos, emotion. Emotion. Telepathy is a lot about emotions. It's about, I suppose in this instance, inspiration. And it's funny how the word inspire and conspire seem to be related. That's why Marilyn Ferguson many years ago wrote the book about what she called it, the Aquarian conspiracy. We are breathing together. We are conspiring together to give birth ultimately to a new post-materialist, postmodern, post-postmodern culture. And while we're in the transition, things do seem like they're falling apart at times. The breakdown of trust, the breakdown of honesty, certainly we see it. And I don't know how the supporters of President Trump explain it, but to those who are not supporters, it's like a steady stream of untruths. A steady stream of untruths. And I suppose from a postmodern philosophical perspective, you can say, well, everybody's entitled to their own perspective. No perspective gets priority. So what Trump believes to be true, even if others say that it's not consistent with the facts, doesn't matter. Because his perspective is as valid as anyone else's. Then there are those who would say, no, when you make statements about facts, those statements have to be consistent with the facts. And then there are those who'll say, well, facts are culturally laden. Facts can be politicized. How do we know a fact is really a fact? Who are we to trust? So there's a delicate balance between acknowledging that really, there's a point to be made. The postmodernists make a good point that no perspective necessarily has priority over any other. You could be an interior designer, and your worldview is just as valuable as that of a mathematician or a physicist. But when it comes to facts, I'm not so sure. It seems to me that there is such a thing as a fact, that there is such a thing as an empirical observation, and that sometimes we make statements that are inconsistent with the facts. We may believe those statements to be true, but when we're shown that they are not true, don't we need to make an adjustment? If we're to become the best version of ourselves, don't you think that truth and facts have to play a role somewhere? Or is it strictly a question of those who are in power get to decide what facts are facts and what facts are not facts? Do we wish to live like that? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, the whole point of the postmodernist deconstruction movement is precisely to challenge the way those in power have been shaping the facts in order to reinforce their own power structures and power base. Now, those who are not in power may endeavor to do the same as well. So it's a double-edged sword. But it seems to me we are living in an era. We are leaving an era, let us hope, in which there is enormous controversy over what is true and what is not true. Certainly, as a parapsychologist, I've known this for many decades. And certainly, as a parapsychologist, I've come to realize that amongst the major deniers of the empirical data of parapsychology are the liberal materialists. The so-called rationalists, who say we live in a rational universe and all of this psychic woo-woo stuff obviously is inconsistent with a rational universe. Therefore, I don't even have to look at the data. I know it's wrong. Well, as a parapsychologist, I find that viewpoint rather troubling. But we could take it and apply the same kind of discourse to politics or to many other areas of science, even beside parapsychology. So what am I saying? What is the transmission here? The transmission ultimately is be true to yourself no matter what's going on, what chaos you find yourself surrounded by. But being true to yourself also means being willing to question your most cherished beliefs, especially in the political arena. But especially as well, your most cherished beliefs around your limitations, the things you believe you can never do and will never do. But what's coming from me in terms of a telepathic transmission is ultimately my wish for you to become the very best version of yourself, to get in touch with your deepest purpose and to actualize your fullest potential in the face of the challenges, the chaos, the frustration, the suffering that exists all around us today. Because ultimately, to me, the universe is about love. Love in the sense of fullness, love in the sense of expansion, love in the sense of embracing your deepest potential. And know that for all of the horror that we sometimes see around us, the universe is a friendly place. I'll leave you with those thoughts. And thank you for being with me today.